Hello guys, I'm back from another video and today we're talking about what if Deku was reincarnated into Genshin Impact. So in the last video we talked about how, after, getting their ass handed to them by, the Valen aka Storm Terror after finding out that the actual person that was controlling him was a, weird looking creature. And after explaining that this thing was called a Abyss Mage, well, Izuku never really known of this, but, he was pretty interested in it either way. Apparently, they probably found a way so they can, control him, which apparently were those black crystals. And after a while thinking, apparently a certain, femboy over there, aka Venti, would finally find a way to basically try and, stop, the Valen from, basically causing all of this trouble in, Mondstadt. Apparently, back before he, actually came here, before he actually came back here, actually, but still, before he actually came back here, apparently when, Miss Honorary Knight over there, aka Lumine, apparently she was able to basically purify these weird crystals that were on the Valen's body. And when Izuku heard that, he would say, so yeah, I'm guessing that she's going to be our way of basically stopping all of this. After agreeing to this, they would also try to find a way to basically, find Storm Terror's lair. And after finding it, they would start to go towards it, but later for now. But when it was finally time, everybody would start to, proceed with the plan, and so they would basically go into the ruins of where, the Valen's basically staying. Apparently, there were several hilichurls and large hilichurls, and not only that, well, Ruin Guardians, which he remembered fondly, not really fondly, more like terrifyingly, back when he was still working as or at least used to be living back when he was, still a, treasure hoarder, back before, his family was literally slaughtered, by the way. So, yeah, after a while of basically, talking, or at least reminiscing about that, whole thing, not really reminiscing, but like, remembering all the failures that he did back there, but still, either way, they would basically start the whole plan. So, Jean and also Diluc would basically start, distract the, hilichurls by using their ults and also, finding them. And as for, Venti, him, and finally Lumine would basically start to go towards the actual, place where supposedly Storm Terror basically lives. And after arriving into the, large, temple, they would see several abyssal mages, which apparently those are the names of those weird things, which Izuku would probably think, yeah, I think that's pretty obvious why they're called that. But either way, one of them would basically say that they should probably go into the portal because that is where Storm Terror, aka the Valen, is basically staying at. And after jumping into the portal, they would see a raging and anger-fueled, the Valen. And it's basically, all of the crystals were basically, controlling him now completely covering his entire back, and somewhat of his, wings. As Izuku, Venti would basically try and distract, the Valen over there, and for Lumine, she will start to, get ready to basically purify the weird-looking crystals. As Izuku and Venti are basically fighting it, Izuku would finally unlock the ability to use Animo, which allows him to create similar blades to, from Black Clover. Just imagine it just like that. As while he's fighting it, he would basically ask specifically, wait for a second. Venti would ask if he has a, delusion, but he would say, it's not delusion, but is, weird looking ass, I'm not really, I didn't mean semblance, I meant, vision, which, when he saw that, he was pretty weirded out. But either way, they would basically focus back on the battle, and after a while basically fighting, well, Lumine would finally destroy, or at least purify all of the crystals, causing the Valen would basically, bring him back to his senses as he would talk, or I meant talk, god damn it, my English, god. So, after a while talking to the Valen would basically apologize to them and so would basically fly off, bringing them back home. And after arriving back, the Valen would basically, apologize to, to all of them. And after that, that was basically the end. Kind of. But before that, they had to bring back the Holy Liar, which, oh boy, Venti broke. Apparently, he sort of broke it during the whole, confrontation with him and the Abyss Mage and also the Valen back there in the cliffside. And apparently, the animal magic that he used is not really permanent. Apparently, he's gonna break in a few hours, which, let's just say, Izuku Amber, which she also knows that, that, Venti over there is supposedly her, god, which, let's just say she was not really happy after knowing this. And, Lumine is just there chilling and also trying to, keep this pretty civil. But, after they basically came out of the church, they would basically get attacked by Fatui agents and one stood out. In this case, a woman by the name of La Senora, or just Senora, which she brutally beats on Venti and basically takes his Gnosis, aka the weird looking chess piece, god damn it. So, after, doing that, they would basically see them basically getting away. And so, they would basically start to leave. After, celebrating after the defeat of, Storm Terror, well, Lumine would start to open up. Apparently, the reason why she came to Mondstadt is because she wants to find find her, brother, aka Aether. After hearing this, apparently a certain Kaya over there, or at least I think so, I sort of remember, yeah, let's just say, Amber, not Amber, Kaya, God, my throat. Kaya would basically explain that apparently there's this, other country or, nation by the name of Leeway, which maybe has some information about, her brother. Even though it's technically not true, she does believe that, there might be, some information about him. Just maybe. And so, Izuku. Izuku would also join her in her adventures going towards Leeway, which Izuku's pretty excited because he was planning to go there, but apparently the reason why was because he wants to steal it, but now he really wants to, go around the other nations and basically, look around. And we basically ended off the episode where, Izuku is basically sleeping on his bed with, Amber, Lumine, and finally, a certain, emergency food, aka, wait for a second, God, aka Paimon, which, not in that way, I swear to God, you perverted little asses. Anyway, so, that is basically what happened last episode, and so, let's talk about what happens next, too. So, after, waking up as both, a certain green-haired boy, aka Zuku, would basically start packing his things. After packing up all of his things, he would basically, look at Lumine as he would say, "So Lumine, we're actually going, right?" As she would say this, "Yep." And we had to say goodbye. As Izuku would say this, "Yeah, it was fun here, but I really wanted to travel around the world here. And besides, I heard that Leeway has some great, cuisine there. And apparently the sights there are pretty interesting." As she would say this, "Yeah, I heard so." As both of them would basically look at each other, as she would say this, "So, as he would say this, "Yeah, Lumine?" As she would say this, "Well, I wanted to say this for a long time now, ever since I met you." As Belle would say this, not Belle, I meant Izuku, god. Izuku would just look at her as he would say, "Sure, what is it?" As she'd say, "Well, I kind of..." But before she could say anything else, Amber would basically rush into the room as she would say this. I heard that you're going away. Uh, I wanted to say goodbye to you. And she would basically look back at Lumine as she would say this. Well, I want to speak with Lumine in private, okay? As when Izuku looks back at the door, he would see another girl. In this case, wait for a second. He would see another girl. In this case, Noelle. As Noelle would say this. Yes, I also want to talk with Lumine, the honorary knight. As she would say this with her usual, kind of calm, disposition, but it seems to be laced with a little bit of anger, or at least in his eyes. As, Izuku would say this. Sure, take your time. I'll just be carrying our bags, As she would say this. Oh, thank you. Just wait outside, okay? As Belle would say this. Not Belle, I meant Izuku. Oh no! Shit! God damn! Anyway, so Izuku would basically, start to grab both his and her bags, and so would basically start to leave the house. Let's go to a different perspective. This time, in the POV of Lumine. So, Lumine is basically there, basically sitting on the bed with, both Amber and also, Noelle. As Noelle would say this. So, is it true that you like Izuku? As she would say this. How did you know? As one of them would say this, specifically Amber. Well, it was pretty obvious. As she would say this. Oh yeah, says the girl who also likes him. As she would basically point back at, Noelle, as she would also start to blush. Yeah, I mean, he was dashing and quite handsome. As she would start to mumble on, basically sounding like Hinata from Naruto, basically similar to that. As, Amber would say this. Yeah, I mean, the reason why I like him is because, back when we were kids, she would basically start to, explain the whole, explain how she was, how she first met, Belle. Not Belle, I meant Izuku. No! I meant Izuku, god damn it! She would basically tell them about how she how she first met Izuku. As after telling her little story, one of them would say this, specifically, Lumine. That sounds a bit, a bit much. As she would say this. Yeah, he was a bit heroic at the time. As one of them would say this, specifically Amber. Not Amber, I meant, her, aka, wait for a second. Specifically Noelle. As Noelle would say this. It seems so. Hey, Amber. As she would say this. Yeah? As she would say, well, we all know why we want to talk to each other, right? As both of them would basically agree, specifically Noelle and also Amber, but for, Lumine, she doesn't know. As both of them would start to look at her, as she would say this. Specifically Amber. How would we share him? Complete silence. Until, what? A certain, Lumine there basically blushing and, in complete, in a complete reddish color, as she would say, share him, what do you mean? As one of them would say this. Well, I'm not really into that type of thing, said, Noelle, as Amber would say this. But, we both, or at least all three of us, know that we like him equally. So, why not share him? As Lumine would say this. She would basically start to, spit her around, almost sounding like, a bit, awkward a little bit. Like, really, pretty much awkward, as she would say this. Wait for a second. Specifically, Noelle. Lumine, we all know that we like, Izuku a lot. And all of us like him. If we don't share him, we'll probably just, end up fighting each other. And I don't want that. As Lumine would say this. Yeah, me too. But still, it's a bit awkward and it's a bit weird. As she would say, specifically, Amber, yeah, but we don't have a choice. After all, if we were to go in a fight, it would probably end up, all of us dead. After saying this, all of them would basically start to agree. They'll be sharing, Izuku, as one of them would say this. So, who's going to be the main wife? Said, Lumine. As, both of them specifically, Amber and, wait for a second, and Noelle would basically start to look at each other as, you know, Amber would basically put her, fists, basically, clench her fists, as she would basically put them on the side, as she would say this. I'm gonna be the main wife. Obviously, after all, she basically, basically does a thumbs up and basically points at herself, because I did met him, first. As both of them would basically have a deadpan expression, as one of them would say this, specifically Lumine. I guess you're gonna be the main wife then, she would basically say, as she would say this. And also, if you find anybody that also likes, Izuku, make sure that they're actually good people. I mean, we don't want to have a gold digger or anything of that sort, she would say, as Lumine would say this. Yeah, but... Oh, yeah, we're going to leeway, and if anyone, as she would basically start to blush a little bit, as she would say this, specifically, Amber. Yeah, if you ever come back, we want to see, our new little harem sisters, she would basically say, as she would start to blush, as she would say this. Yeah, she would basically start to laugh a little bit, as all of them would start to laugh together. Back to Izuku. Izuku is basically, just, sitting on the porch of the, of the entrance to, Amber's house, as after a while of waiting, he would see the door open, as he would see Lumine. And Paimon basically near her, as she would say this, come on, let's go. As Lumine would basically say that, as Paimon would say this, yeah, Paimon, it's time for us to go. She would basically, say that to, Izuku, as Izuku would say this, yeah, little brat. He would basically say as he would grab his bags, as she would say this, hey, Paimon isn't a brat, she would basically say with a pout, as he would say this, sure, he would basically, pat her on the head, as both of them would start to leave, as he would basically say goodbye to both, Amber and also, Noelle. While they're basically, getting their bags, they would basically start to leave, as you would see a few people basically, saying goodbye to them, including some civilians that were basically, walking around, and they basically, just stopped and basically saying goodbye to them. And so, both of them would disappear into the, I guess you could say, like, sunrise, because it was pretty much morning-ish. So, after a while of walking, they would basically, go towards a little city. Or at least not really a city, more like, a little, like, river, which seems to have more of an Asian feel to him. He would see a few trees that resemble, wait for a second, the trees almost resemble, trees that are going into autumn. The leaves are kind of goldenish, as while they're basically, tracking on the ground and basically taking in the sight of the river and these goldenish trees, not really actually golden, as in, the trees themselves are just basically just like normal color, but the leaves are, you basically get it. As while they were walking, they would see a weird looking statue. As one of them would say this, hey, Paimon knows what it is, as Paimon would basically look at the weird looking statue, as Lumine would say this, yeah, it's the statue of the Geo Archon, as not Bell, I meant Izuku. God, as Izuku would just say this, wait, the Geo Archon? That's a statue of him? You would basically look at the statue as it resembles some sort of, chess piece, but on top of it, instead of like, the typical like, horse or, bishop piece or something of that sort, instead it was something resembling of a humanoid figure wearing a cloak and sitting on a throne with several, rocks. Like, it kind of resembles like something from Minecraft, kind of. It's more like, like there's several like, it's basically made, like, the throne itself, it's basically made out of like, rectangles. As when she came closer to it, specifically Lumine, she would basically start to glow, or at least emanate a glow around her. After that, a bit of her, clothing, or more specifically her accents, would become golden. As when, Izuku saw this, he would say, what the heck happened? As she would say this, I think I might have gone the geo element or the geo, um, the geo powers or geo whatever. As when she did that, or when she said that, she would basically start, held up her hand, as she would start to create something. It resembles some sort of rocky ball or prison. As when not Bell, I meant Izuku, god damn it. After Izuku saw this, he would say, "What in the?" Ash would say, "Look, I'm able to do it. I'm able to use Geo." Ash would basically jump on this weird looking construct. As when, Izuku saw that, he would say, "Cool, I guess." After looking at the statue, he would look into it, look into the statue's eyes, as the statue would start to glow a little bit. Similar to how Lamine basically gained the Geo Archons or the Geo powers or the Geo, abilities, you basically get it. As after looking into the eyes, he would see that it would start to, glow a little bit. And when the glow dissipates, nothing happens. As Izuku would say, that was weird. And so they would basically start to trek on, basically going towards, going towards and over the river. After doing that, they would start to walk towards a little, area of land. After doing that, they would basically sit on this little plot of land and basically start, taking some, time to basically rest. And after a while of resting, they would basically have a little bit of lunch, which is mostly filled with mostly, fruit, because nearby there is like some sort of weird looking fruit tree. And so, after a while of eating, they would basically start trekking on towards, supposedly where Leeway basically stands. Wait for a second. So, after a while of basically, just walking around the city, they would see lights. As Izuku would say this, "I think that might be Leeway." As one of them would say this, "Are you sure?" Paimon doesn't think that this is Leeway. As when, Izuku heard that, he would say, "Are you sure about that?" He would basically glare at her. As she would say, "Don't worry, Paimon doesn't think that you're wrong." As, Lumine would say this, "Don't worry, she's just, in that type of state most of the time." She would basically say, as Belle would say this. Not Belle, I meant Izuku. Anyway, so as Izuku is basically, going towards the light, both of them would see that they're in some sort of cliffside, and they would see a large city, which Izuku would noted that it would resemble some sort of city that, Chinese people that used to live there, like feudal, feudal, China, basically, basically the architecture is basically similar to that. As they would see that they're near to a harbor, which is basically filled with ships and many merchants basically selling their wares. As when Izuku saw this, he would say, "This place is quite breathtaking," he would basically say, as he would smell the fresh, ocean air, as he would say, "Not bad. It smells nice. It feels nice." As after saying this, one of them would say this, specifically, Paimon. Paimon thinks we should probably get some eat. And also, get some sleep. As Izuku would basically agree with that. And so they would basically start to go towards wait for a second. They would basically start to go towards the city of Leeway. And after arriving, they would see several people basically selling a lot of food and other types of trinkets, to clothes, to accessories, to masks, and to toys, and many other, items that they can sell. As Izuku's basically walking around, they would see, a few people basically having a bit of fun. Kind of. And after a while of walking, they would basically find a little food stand. Apparently, the food there were pretty delicious. They would basically, basically eat, as Izuku would note to himself that it kind of resembles, regular old Chinese food. Like the ones that you get from, from New York. Oh, god damn it. Oh, god damn it. Just imagine it like that. So, As after a while of basically eating, they would find a little, I guess you could say like inn, and so they would basically go in, get it, and so they would basically fall asleep. The next day comes as they would basically start to go around town, and it's finally morning, thankfully. Apparently, people were talking about this weird looking, this weird event, apparently. Apparently, this event known as the rite of ascension, apparently it's called. As after hearing about this rite of ascension thing, which sounded a bit cultish to him, not gonna lie, he would just ignore that part and would decide to maybe, entertain himself and decide to just, watch this whole, rite of ascension thing. As for, Lumine and also, Paimon would also agree to maybe join it. Mostly about, mostly for different reasons. One, Paimon being just a little bit bored, and for, Lumine because, still pretty much, in love with, a certain, green haired man, aka, Izuku. After arriving at this weird looking event, they would go into a little platform and see a girl, or a woman in this case. She's maybe about in her, late 20s or something, and she seems to be of high status, almost somewhat resembling royalty. Wait for a second. The woman seems to have whitish hair with, like a little accent of, with a little weird looking tassel on her, forehead, which was red. She seems to have reddish eyes and seems to be wearing noble clothing. After, a bit of a little bit of a speech, and apparently, Belle would know her. Not Belle, I meant Izuku. God damn it. So, Izuku would know her name as Ningguang. Apparently, she was a part of the, she sings something. Let me just check if the actual name exactly. Apparently, she's a part of, or at least the leader of the Liwei Sing, which apparently is supposed to be this, this organization which mostly consists of merchants and businessmen and women. Which, when he heard of this, he would think, actually, it sounds like more like America than anything else. He would basically think in his mind, as after a while of basically talking, she would basically explain that this is supposed to be for, he would basically tone it a little bit, he would basically tone all of it down, like, he would basically barely, hear it and basically just zones out. After a while of basically talking, something happens, which was unexpected to him. Something weird happens, as a burst of, like a big pillar of light would basically appear, as when everybody saw it, they were basically, excited. Except for Izuku, which was pretty unaccepted, it was pretty unexpected to him. It almost felt like he was about to, have a heart attack. As when Lumine saw this, she would say, "Did you got scared by that?" As he would say this. "Obviously, I almost got a heart attack for God's sake." As she would say this. "Oh, come on, it wasn't that bad." As you would say this. Whatever. As, while a bit of talking, they would see that the clouds are slowly turning a little bit dark. And when they looked up, they would see that the, sky was not really happy. As everybody's basically getting a little bit scared, as something falls from the sky. It resembles some sort of Asian-ish dragon, more specifically a Chinese dragon. As it falls down onto the, weird-looking, on the table with several offerings, as it will fall to the ground, making a huge mess. As everybody would just see this, as everybody was horrified and kind of concerned. As the woman by the name of Ningguang would basically come up to the, weird-looking monster, as she would say this. "Rex Lapis, he has been killed. Seal the exits." She would basically say this, as several soldiers would basically appear, as they would seem to surround the entire area, which Izuku was unexpecting that, would not expect that at all. Lumine and, Paimon were a bit, afraid of this, as Izuku would say this. "Calm down. It's probably just something about, wait, did she say that this, a goddamn Archon died?" He would basically say that in his mind, and would except for the whole, like, um, you know, the just calm down thing. So after basically, thinking about that, and also saying that, he would basically, just, back up with the rest of the people there that were basically watching all of this. Wait for a second. As when both of them were, not really both of them, more like all three of them would basically, look at each other, as one of them would say, specifically Paimon thinks we should probably escape, as Izuku would say this. That seems like a great idea, and so they would basically start to escape. But they had to be a little bit silent, because if they were to get found out, they would, the actual guards would think that they're the ones for the suspect of basically killing their goddamn god. So, as Izuku's basically sneaking around, and by the way, he's actually pretty good at sneaking around. After all, he was a part of the treasure hoarders, so it makes sense that he's pretty, efficient in that. But for Lamine and also, Paimon, they were, the complete opposite. And so one of them would basically, step on a little branch, and yeah, the guards were basically glaring at them, as they would basically say, "Get them! They're the suspects!" As everybody would basically start to chase after Lamine and, Paimon, and also Izuku and Proxy, they would basically start to, run away, as they would basically be led to a dead end. As when Izuku saw this, he would think, "Oh crap, oh crap, oh crap." As after saying this, one of them would say, "Please calm down," said, Lumine. As you would say, "Calm down, I never..." He would basically start, starts scratching the back of his, not scratching the back, more like scratching the top of his head in furiousness, as you would see several guards basically, blocking their way. As they would say, "Alright, arrest them! They're the reasons why they killed our Archon!" But after he said that, one person, or more specifically, a disembodied voice, would basically say this: "Hey, guys, maybe try not to be so, I don't know, a little bit more, asshole-ish." As you would see a few water arrows would basically come out of nowhere and would basically stab both of the guards, not really killing them, but more like knocking them down. As a person would basically, come out of the shadows. A man with orange hair and bluish eyes, wearing some sort of weird-looking outfit, which almost seems familiar. But Izuku doesn't have, a finger on it yet. And I mean yet. So, as this person would basically jump out of nowhere, this person seems to be wielding some sort of bow. As the bow would change into two different weapons. Specifically, two, dual blades, which he uses them in a reverse grip, as these dual blades, which were made of, hydro energy, would basically, he would basically start slashing at all of the guards, as he would say this: "Hey, comrades, are you okay?" As he would basically say this with a nonchalant smile, as he would say this: "Thank you, but who the hell are you?" As he would basically get ready his, his claymore, as he would say this: "Hey, calm down, calm down. Don't worry, I'm not your enemy. And besides, I'm just a little friend here. And the name's... yeah." He would say, "The name's Chill Day. And the reason why I'm going to be calling him Chill Day, if you're going to say, 'Hey, that's the wrong saying of his name,' or something of that sort. I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna call him Child. It just sounds weird to me. So I'm just gonna be calling him Chill Day from now on, and you better respect that." So, Chill Day would basically say, "Nice to meet you. And by the way, what is your name?" As he would say this: "Oh, the name's Izuku." As he would basically look back at the girl, as he would say this: "Hey, comrade, maybe try and tell me your name next time." As he would say this: I meant she. "Oh, my name is Lamine, and this is Paimon." As he would look back at the weird-looking floating fairy, as he would say this: "Oh, that's peculiar. But either way, I've seen worse, but, let's go." As he would basically, start to leave, as Izuku, Paimon, and also Lamine would start to follow him. And after, escaping the, leeway guards, they would basically stop at a little, area, which, let's just say it's like a back alleyway, as one of them would say this, specifically Izuku: "Alright, Who the hell are you and why did you save us? As he would say this. Oh, come on. I'm just here because, the reason why I saved you is because, I think you're interesting. And also, I forgot to, tell you. Do you hereby, hear about this person by the name of Senora, perhaps? She's actually one of the Fatui. And even I am a part of the Fatui. After hearing this, all of them would basically go into a battle stance. Actually, both of them, specifically Lumine and also, Izuku, because they're the only ones that are able to fight. Currently, Miss, Miss Emergency Food, aka, Paimon is basically there, basically cowering in fear, as Izuku would say this. You're a part of Fatui? As you'd basically get rid of his sword, as you'd start charging up a blast of, Animo, as she would say this. Yeah, you're a part of the Fatui? As when she said that, she would start to create little crystals from, from Geo, as he would say this. Hey, come on, come on, come on. Don't worry, I'm not really here to hurt you or anything. I'm just here to save you. And besides, I'm not really that bad. I mean, Senora is bad, but I ain't that bad, okay? Trust me. He would basically say, as Izuku would just look at him, as he would basically put down his, claymore, as he would say this. Fine, but if I ever hear you trying to hurt us or anything of that sort, as he would basically, points his claymore back at, back at him, as he would say this. I will end you. As he would start charging up a bit of, a bit of his, cryo and a mix of his, hydro energy, as he would start to create, two water serpents, as the air would start to become a little bit colder. As Child would basically, widen his eyes, as he would say this. Oh, I didn't know that you have a delusion. He would basically say, as he would say this. What? No, I don't have a delusion, or whatever the hell you call it. Anyway, I just use this, as he would basically hold up his vision, as when not Kaya, I meant Shilde basically see this, he would say this. Huh, how weird. Either way, we should probably go to Northern Bank. It's actually owned by us Fatui. And by the way, have you heard of the Fatui Harbingers? I'm actually one of them. He would basically say, as Izuku would say this. Fatui what? As he would start to explain about who these Harbingers are. Apparently, these Fatui Harbingers are basically like, like similar to the number one, like similar to the top 10 heroes, but except for, except they only work for the, Cryo Archon, aka what her name is usually called by. Apparently, her name was called, apparently her title is known as Saritsa, which they were pretty, not really convinced about, because, technically, ever since they fought the Fatui, and also being beaten by them, thanks to a certain, La Senora over there, well, they don't really trust the Fatui all that much, but they're just but they somewhat trust him for now. They're just, keeping their guard up, as he would say this. Alright, we're here, as after arriving at Northern Bank, they would basically sit down, as he would say this. So, you're wondering why we decided, or at least I decided to help you, as he would say this. Yeah, why exactly? As he would say this. Well, because I thought you were interesting. And besides, I think of you as a friend. And besides, I keep hearing about La Senora talking about you and talking about how you were cute or something about that. After Izuku hearing this, he would say, I'm just going to ignore what you said. As he would say this. Either way, he would basically start to laugh. Either way, you're basically comrades. As he would basically say this. As Izuku would say this. Comrades. As he would say this. Yeah, and I also saw you in trouble, so I didn't want to let you get hurt. Besides, I don't really want to see any innocent people getting hurt. As after saying this, he would say, okay. He would basically, lets his guard down for now, as he would start to explain a little bit more. So, Chill Day would basically explain that they should probably go to a little area known as Geocars. Or at least I think that's the actual name of that place. I'm not really good with Chinese because most of the, characters in Leeway or, or or basically all of Leeway is based off China. Which, I mean, it's pretty obvious. So, yeah, I'm not really good with Chinese. I mean, I don't really have a Chinese class, unlike my cousin over there, which he does have a Chinese class, and trust me, he said he hates it. He absolutely hates it. Apparently, he hates it so much that if he were to go to China, he would rather just speak English. Yeah. So, currently, with him, he would basically explain that they should probably go and talk to a certain Adepti, which apparently Adepti are basically similar to, well, similar to, what's his face? Yeah, similar to, Storm Terror slash, the Valen, and other creatures which he'd never known, which one of them was a wolf, the other is some sort of phoenix thing. He doesn't really remember all that much. So, after being told of this, he would basically start to leave and, wait for a second. But before Chill Day leaves, he would basically give them a circle of permission, which apparently these, Adepti were not, were actually forced to protect Liyue. Apparently, this place is actually, called the, instead of Mondstadt, which was called the City of Freedom or the Land of Freedom or something of that sort. Apparently, Liyue was basically called the Land of Contracts, which, kind of makes sense because of the whole business theme. So, after, leaving and also giving them the whole tag of permission thing, they would basically go towards the, little area they were told to go to, aka where these so-called Adepti can go help them out with their whole, being called criminals thing. So yeah, after that, they would basically start to leave this, Northland Bank. So, after leaving, well, they would realize that they're sort of hungry. So, after deciding to basically go to, a little restaurant, they would basically sit down and, thankfully nobody noticed that they're basically, now wanted fugitives in this, in this country. So, after ordering some food, they would hear the sound of, trouble in the kitchen. It sounded like, people were fighting. But it sort of stopped. After that, some sort of weird bear thing seems to be, bringing their, food, which, let's just say Izuku was pretty weirded out. As a woman seems that's about Izuku's age, or at least he thinks so, seems to come out. She seems to be wearing, wait for a second. She seems to be wielding some sort of spear, and on that spear seems to be a piece of roasted meat. She seems to be wearing some sort of traditional Chinese clothing, and seems to have her hair done similar to a bow. Like her hair is literally like the bow. Her hair is literally, literally similar to a bow. It's basically in the shape of a bow. She seems to be seems that her hair is kind of dark bluish, almost similar to, a navy blue. Her eyes were kind of almost, a little bit innocent. Almost similar to Izuku back then, which kind of gave him memories back when he was still, still working for the League of Villains. But she seems to, have a different eye color, specifically a bit more goldenish color. Not really actually, golden. They're more a golden brown color. She would say this. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry for the noise in the kitchen. As she would basically look over at Izuku and Lumine's table, as she would come up to them, as she would say this. Oh, you're new here. Nice to meet you. The name is Xinglang. Or at least I think that's the name. Let me just check. I meant Shangling. Oh, God. Her name is Shangling. As Izuku would say this. Oh, hi there. I'm kind of new here. The name's Izuku. As she would say this. are you from Inazuma? Huh, I didn't know that Inazuma was able to, allow people to basically come out and basically decide to just go everywhere, like, go anywhere they want. After all, after hearing about the, war currently raging on, as Izuku would say this, sorry, but I don't really live in there. Actually, I used to live in Mondstadt, but I decided to move here. He would say, as she would say this. Oh, really? Then why do you have, as he would say this? Well, my mother and father was from, Inazuma. As she would say this. I see. Huh. Hope you enjoy your meal. As Izuku would basically look back at his, food, as you would see, a large plate of, fried rice. And with a lot of, dumplings on the side and some, wait for a second. And a large plate of basically like, shomai, basically. And after getting his chopsticks, which he's pretty much proficient in using back when he was still, in Japan, which was pretty easy for him. But for Lamine, well, it was basically trouble for her at the start. She's basically tried to use chopsticks as she's basically failing it instantly. Izuku would basically decide to help her out as, after a while of trying, she would finally do it. Crudely. So, after basically eating, they would decide to go back at their inn, and so, after going back to their, specific room, which, unfortunately, apparently why they didn't have, another bed, or at least the bed that, Izuku was meant to, sleep on, is because apparently some sick patient needed to, have a bed, so they decided to go for their room. So unfortunately, Izuku and also, Lamine are going to be sleeping together. I mean, Lamine was pretty happy, but for Izuku, he's currently, shivering at the thought. And so, both of them would basically sleep in the same bed, and so, would fall to sleep. So yeah, so, I hope you like this video, and before you guys leave, I'm gonna be, making a post on my, community tab for all of you guys to pick, the, new girls for Izuku's harem, more specifically, Leeway girls. And so, yeah, so, I hope you liked the video, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!